Hey, folks, we're back. Mike and Matt, ABO Outfitters. Today we have Kyle Heuerman on. He's with Team Radical. He's a giant whitetail hunter from Illinois. We'll talk through some tactics and some tips and some different things that he looks at in the whitetail woods. So that's certainly some beneficial information there for all you whitetail guys.
And they kind of give us a background too on their Team Radical. Very, very cool online presence. A lot of self-filming, a bunch of good dudes. Worth a listen.
Heck yeah.
Very interesting stuff.
Thanks for tuning in.
Live.
Okay, we're live, boys. Well, Kyle, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Mike.
Kyle Heuerman, Team Radical. We've been kind of talking for a long time to finally get you on, so I'm excited to do this. Thanks for the time. First off, just like we typically like to do with a lot of folks, let's just jump into kind of your background with hunting, your job, family, where you live, what got you into hunting.
Sure. Name is Kyle Heuerman. I'm here from Central Illinois. I'm 33 years old. I've got a beautiful wife of 7 or 8 years. Don't hold me to that. We've been dating a long time. Yeah, I know. And I've got 2 beautiful daughters. I've got one that's getting ready to turn 4 and one's getting ready to turn 2, actually this weekend. So they've been by far the greatest blessing of my life so far. But basically for my job occupation, I work for my grandfather. Up until just 2 years ago, we had a couple stone quarries, a trucking company, and a gravel pit. And we recently, the past 2 years, we sold our 2 stone quarries and our trucking company, and now we just have the gravel pit. So I help out with the gravel pit, and then I'm also the land manager of all of our land, take care of everything. We've got a lot of CRP contracts, doing all that stuff. And yeah, I mean, I just do a little bit of everything too. I like to follow the dollar.
Yeah.
But basically that's what I do right now. And then obviously Team Radical has gotten a lot bigger in a hurry. It seems like every single year it keeps getting bigger and bigger. And with social media and making all those changes and everything all the time, you really got to keep on top of it. So we've done really well, and I foresee us doing even better going forward. We've got some great ideas and great things in the works for the future. So really excited about that. Started hunting, I guess, whenever I was probably 10 years old, I'd say. And my dad was basically just a weekend warrior, we went every once in a great while. We would just go on the weekends, really no management plan, no anything whatsoever. And we would go every shotgun season, and I shot several deer and such. And then, he was a decent hunter, but not by any means great. He just went when he had free time, and that was about it. And I enjoyed that, going with him and my grandfather. And then I think it was sometime when I was a junior in high school. It seemed like you'd always go to school and tell your buddies about your hunting stories,
Yep.
And I had a lot of friends that was trying to call my bluff. And, if just telling a story, that's just hearsay, you don't know. How do I know that's true or false? You can make up a lot of stuff. So I decided right then I was sick and tired of trying to defend myself, calling their bluff. And I bought, I asked for Christmas a video camera, and I got one that year. It's just a cheapo $200 camera, and started filming my hunts then. And it just turned into a passion. I mean, I loved filming it more than I did actually almost shooting. And then I was a really good turkey caller. I used to call all the time, literally every single day I would call. And I started doing contests, doing turkey calling. And then I had a big calling company reach out to me and asked me to be part of their program and everything, and started doing contests with them and started working for them on the side as well. And then I started doing consumer shows all across the country with them. and was just selling calls like crazy and just enjoying it, loving it, doing these calling competitions and everything. And it was kind of then at one of those consumer shows, I decided, I think we should start something of our own. And I loved filming. I loved hunting. And a couple buddies of mine, we were discussing on the way back from the show. And, instead of just turning it into talk, I set up a meeting at my dad's shed. I'll never forget. And I called all my local buddies that I knew were big buck killing machines. And some of them were a lot older than me. Some of them were same age or younger. We had a great big meeting. And from there it started. And I think we started with 17 guys. And they were all pretty local to me at that point. And then those guys went on to college. Some of them met buddies at college from different places. And then they came onto the team. Then some other guys had different priorities or other priorities that were more pressing, obviously, than Team Radical. And so we went through quite a few guys throughout the years. And that's to be expected,
Yep.
Because it takes a lot of commitment to do what we're doing. It takes a lot.
So how many years has it been?
What's that?
How many years has it been since you guys originated?
2008. So it'd be 13 years going on. I guess would be 14 and 22.
Very cool. Yeah, that's
so. Yeah, it just kind of evolved. We started with DVDs. That was the big trend then, and they were an absolute pain. And then I think it was in 2012 or 13 that we switched over to going on YouTube and social media. And we had an opportunity to do Sportsman's Channel years ago, and we decided not to do that just because when we started getting involved into that, there was just so much work and so much it took the fun out of it completely, I guess. And I didn't want that. So we stopped that right away and went to just online only. And from that point on, it's been sailing on social media, which is great, but it's also scary at the same time, especially considering who owns, the major platform networks. And I know there's been some craziness this year already with that going on. So I'm hopeful that keeps going the way it's going, but I foresee there's something in the future that'll be in the works that will be another really good platform. At least I hope. But yeah, that's pretty much been our bread and butter has been whitetails. That's kind of what we were known for. And then when we were starting, most of us were filming one another. We'd always have two guys in a tree, one filming the other guy, and we'd take turns. Well, what we realized was, yes, you were getting really good quality and everything, but you're also cutting your chances in half. So if instead of having that guy in the tree stand with you, he needs to be hunting and filming. So that takes a whole nother level of commitment doing self-filming by yourself and making it quality. Anybody can put a camera on a camera arm, zoom it out, and a deer walks by and you shoot it and, it's super zoomed out. But creating storylines and such, that's what we love to do. And I think our biggest thing, and what I always tell all of our guys is, whether this sounds arrogant or mean, whatever, but we want to film our hunts for ourselves first. So every single video that I make or hunt that I do, that video is for me first. It's exactly how I want to tell it. It's exactly how I want to remember it. It's so my daughters can watch it. It's so my family can watch it, friends, stuff like that. And myself, I can go back and watch it. So I think that really separates us from a lot of people too, I think, because, ours might be longer and drawn out because it's a long story, but it's because it's for us. Someday, that's the beautiful thing. We can go back and watch our story. We don't have to just tell you our story. We can watch it.
Right.
And
I love that.
That's pretty special to me.
Yeah. That's cool. I've gotten to know you just a little bit, and even just hearing you say those kinds of things and hearing the real like nitty gritty backstory of Team Radical and, making choices to go away from the Sportsman's Channel, all that stuff is just authentic. Not that, you didn't want to go on the Sportsman's Channel. You just made a decision with your buddies to do a certain thing and you stuck to it. to just go on social media or to film it a certain way and to be a certain way and not make it, we're only filming a kill shot. We're only putting a kill shot into the film. Like, we'll get to it a little bit later, but the great buck you killed out in South Dakota this year, you ultimately killed it, and that's what matters. But there was also some very real things that happened to every bow hunter, and you put those in the film.
You won't. Yeah, and you won't see that on most people's videos ever.
Right. There's very few, ever. And that's the pressure. Probably again of like a sportsman's channel is you want to have, yep, you tell a story, it looks great, perfect. You have the kill shot, it's clean, great. It's going to look good and it's going to play good. People are going to enjoy watching it, but it's not anything that's different, authentic, special. So that's pretty cool. I mean, that's certainly separates you.
Too many people are just soft. They care what everybody else thinks, and they want to create and tailor their video to them, I guess. I don't do that. I won't do that. I mean, it's just not me. Like I told you earlier, it's our videos are for each guy. If one guy doesn't want to show that, that's up to him. It's his story. He's allowed to tell it how he wants. Yep. But with me, the whole story is going to be there. And I'm going to take heat. Yeah, I'm going to have the PC Warriors come out. But at the end of the day, I don't care. I just don't. Okay. I mean, it's for me first. And that's just the way I like to roll.
Yeah, I love that aspect.
If you can't be honest with yourself, how do you expect to be honest with others?
Yep.
Right.
So.
No, that's an awesome point. I love that. And going back to like what you said too about the self-filming, like that's the whole aspect of why you can do that is because you guys have taught yourself how to become, good self-filmers in the field and how to tell that story and the storyline behind it and the pre and the post and all that stuff. So that's awesome. It's very cool to hear that because we're in the beautiful. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that the beautiful part of doing the way we're doing it with social media, like Mike was saying, is that it tailors to our lifestyle too. I mean, we all have jobs, wives, families, the whole shebang.
We hear you.
So there's only so much time in the day, and you got to keep that ship going. That's the most important priority. Hunting comes second.
Yeah.
And so that really tailors to our lifestyle really well. And, we've got a lot of different guys, and I know I was talking about how we were all local at first. But now we've grown into, Michigan, Missouri, Tennessee, Kentucky, Kansas, I don't even know. Yeah. We're from all over the Midwest now for the most part.
Nice.
And it's been a lot of fun, and we learn from each other. That's a beautiful thing too. We can commute back and forth and know what the deer are doing and figure out new ideas or new things. Like when you guys just called, I'm actually doing a video this year. I'm doing a scrape trial and error of a cedar branch versus a white pine on the same tree. I'm trying to learn which one works better, and just stuff like that. Have fun with it. Yeah. We love just have fun.
How many guys, girls, hunters, team members do you guys have now?
We have 15.
15. Wow, it's growing.
So you stayed
15 guys.
But you stayed kind of consistent. You said you had 17 at the when you first started back in high school.
Yep.
So people come and gone as life changes, and you guys kind of stayed that consistent across the board. That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, having enough guys really gets us, more content. We've got content is how you survive or die.
Content's king.
Social media.
It's the double-edged sword,
Yeah, it is. It truly is. But that's what the beautiful thing of having an actual team is. One guy doesn't have to do it all. That's the whole point is a little bit chip in here, a little bit chip in there from each guy tallies up to a lot.
Yep.
And it also throws people off and trying to guess what trail camera picture came from where and all that stuff,
That's true. That's true.
I will say too, on another aspect is when you do these social media videos and everything, the really bad part is you paint a target on your back. a giant target. And to the people that are jealous, to the people that, I don't know. I guess just jealousy.
Like you feel added
or they don't like your videos. Yeah. You know, I was telling you about how we show everything in our videos. Well, sometimes people don't like that, and they take it upon themselves to, AKA, call you into a game warden, even though you're illegal, you know. And I will say, we have wardens on our back watching us every single day. And that's fine. You know, we need to be legal. I want to be legal. Yeah. But there's a lot of other stuff going on, you know, out there that I feel like they could be watching. But with us, when a game warden is called, they have to follow up, you know. So you definitely expose yourself to that, and that sucks. But it's part of it, you know. So you deal with it.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I've had we see the same things, you know, on social media. There's the naysayers out there and the negative comments, and it's going to happen. But to take it to the extreme of calling a CEO and just to tail a guy because people see that he has success on social media seems a little absurd.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Trust me, it's happened multiple times.
Now, talking about the double-edged sword of social media, Matt had kind of mentioned it, but now with all these videos and all the different content and being so-called an industry personality, do you feel added pressure at times to get a kill on camera, or to get a kill at all, to obviously the authentic videos are what you guys are good at, so it's not like to make a certain style video, but to just constantly get those kills on camera?
No, but if I'm going to be 100% honest, like I used to feel that years ago, but now, no. I mean, there's no way I'm going to lower my standards shooting a deer that I wouldn't have shot if it wasn't on video. You know, there's no way I'm lowering my standards to do that. And I feel like the rest of the team is doing the exact same thing. They're not going to do that either. And if you just watch last year's video, in my hunting story last year, I didn't shoot a single buck last year on video, or I didn't shoot a single buck, period, last year. And I still had a story to tell, because that's the real life. And I passed a lot of great bucks that, 6-8 years ago, even I would have shot them in a heartbeat, but they are not up to my standard and my management practice, what I want to do going forward. So I let them off, but I still had a good story to tell. And that's what I love to do, is just telling the story. It's a realistic, real life throughout my whole season. And, you can see my frustration, you can see the success, etc., throughout the whole journey.
Yeah, that's cool. You mentioned obviously being a young kid when you started filming, but how old were you?
Well, junior in high school, I would have been 16 going on 17 whenever I started filming. Yeah.
To prove the naysayers.
And I mean, it's just and I've still got that camera. I still have that camera. I kept it for keepsake. I did. It's I even painted it with a paintbrush back in the day. It's one of those that, filmed with those great big tapes. And that's another thing that's crazy, is just the changes in the cameras over the years. I mean, I think I've went through, I guarantee, at least 20 different cameras in that amount of time. The technology just changes constantly. They keep getting better and better. And
well, back to your point about a junior in high school, and you got your buddies saying, like, oh, prove it. Like back then, like we're roughly the same age, and when I was in high school, you're using the 35 millimeter camera, the first trail cameras that came out. It's like click.
That's right. Yep. You go to Walmart or Walgreens or wherever you got, and you wait for the 1 hour photo to develop.
It's like Christmas
I love
morning.
that. I honestly miss that, sitting in the parking lot just waiting for those pictures to come.
Oh, dang it. It was just tilted a little bit too low.
Yeah, so it was tougher to prove to the buddies, what buck you're hunting there, like, guys, it's this big, I swear to God.
I know.
Yep. Funny. I used to keep a whole book full of all those printed off pictures, and I think I still got them somewhere, but and then you get the ones where you get 24 blanks.
Yeah. Set up wrong, or just,
stick blown in the wind.
Yep.
Oh, crazy.
Gosh. Well, yeah. So whitetails are obviously
Yeah.
you guys' bread and butter. You're in Southern Illinois, correct?
Central,
Central?
basically.
Okay. Well, so I mean, this is
Yeah,
obviously
East Central. Yeah.
East Central. Okay. Well, this is, we're kind of
Mhm.
getting to that, quote unquote glory days of the whitetail rut coming up. But, I think it might be a good timely information to maybe just pick your brain, walk through maybe some tips and tricks, coming up here now. I mean, you're checking scrapes and you're hunting scrapes, you're putting cameras on scrapes, trying to get more and more daytime activity leading into that rut. So maybe, I guess, as we are now, walk through kind of what your mindset is for locating some big deer.
Yeah. So basically, I switched probably back in 2011. So I used to hunt everything, everywhere, go deep in the woods, do a hang and hunt, all that good stuff. I had some success, but wasn't consistent. And what really changed the game for me being consistent is knowing when to hunt and staying out of the prime. I try to create as much timber or as much that I'm hunting. I try to create as much sanctuary as humanly possible.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a big time edge hunter, and that doesn't mean just field edges. That means whether it's I have a really good spot that is a deep creek and it's, 10-foot banks on both sides. I can walk down this creek and then my tree stand is literally on the creek edge and I can walk out of the creek bed up into the actual tree. So I like to hunt edges because access and exit is absolutely key. And I feel like the more I keep the property a sanctuary, the more deer is going to come in. And eventually they're going to make a mistake and come to those edges, whether it's an edge on a bluff or edge on a creek or a field edge over a food plot, whatever. When I started doing that and hunting actually less, but paying attention more, I started having consistent success. And obviously over the years, my standard of buck that I wanted to shoot has changed. Now I like to shoot a buck. He needs to be at least 5.5 years old or older. That's what I like to shoot. And yeah, it's really worked out well. Like I said,
Mm-hmm.
I started back in 2010 era basically and really managing the property. I said earlier, my dad was a weekend warrior. That's how we started hunting. And I had a good friend of mine, Don Higgins. He had a book he wrote. A lot of the stuff he said in there rang really true to me, because I didn't really have someone that, managed for deer hunting or whatever at that time. So I needed someone to find that did. And especially close in my area, my vicinity. And Don, he had that book and it was spot on and I paid attention to it. And I started implementing some of the things he was talking about in that book. And man, it was just paying off really quick. And over the years, I've gotten better with my food plots. Designing and how to tailor the food plots is just as important as the food plot itself. I mean, because I'll be honest, I don't plan a food plot for it just to look pretty. I plan a food plot to, help out the critters, but I also want to plan it to where I have a shot of getting the buck I want to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they're in that food plot, I want to kill them. I mean, simple as that.
Yep.
So, and that's part of the fun. I honestly probably enjoy that almost as much as I do hunting them now. Just seeing all the critters thrive on it. I mean, we've got a phenomenal pheasant and quail population on our ground,
Nice.
which is extremely rare in the state of Illinois.
Yeah, that surprises me.
Yeah, I'm talking like it would be nothing in the late season to have 200 pheasant in my standing soybean.
Yep.
And
Wow.
and a lot of the quail and stuff. And so that makes me feel really good. And seeing all the critters, utilize that makes me feel really good. And I enjoy the process of it too. Hunting with my grandfather, doing all that management work with my grandfather. It's a lot of fun.
Yep.
Right. No, I think one of the points you made there about entry and exit, like that's one thing I personally have found out the hard way growing up, and hunting and
Yep.
taking the same key to. I feel like I'm kind of similar, and I'm more of a conservative hunter when it comes into ground. Like I always creep slowly and and hunt edges like you're saying, and be more surveillance. And as you learn, then you can make a little steps further depending on if it's ground you're hunting all season or if it's ground you're hunting for the week or the weekend. And so it was a good point, though.
And knowing when to strike, because you can go out there and just the more you're out there, the more scent you put on the ground, the less your odds are going to be. Simple as that. And I just try to stay out until it's time, to go in there. And I was talking about edges. So like any trail cameras that I have, they're on the edges. So I drive a side by side or four-wheeler or whatever up to every single camera. And the ones that are deep in the woods, that I put out there, a month ago or whatever, they're soaking, and they will not get checked until I go to hunt that exact spot. On the way to or from the stand, I'm pulling that card. I'll put a new one in. But basically the majority of the intel I'm going to be seeing is from those edges and tell me, this buck is in that area now. Now it's go time. So yeah, like I said, it's hard to do. I'm not going to lie to you. It makes you're super anxious. You just want to get in there and hunt so bad, but you just stay out of there. So I've got other properties that, I'm not expecting to shoot a buck on or whatever, but I want to learn something about the property. I'll go do an observation sit and just enjoy it.
So do you have, with some of those areas that you're, putting cameras deep in, it'd be interesting. Would you get good enough service to run like a cell camera?
Some of the places, yes. Some of the places, no. Most of the places, yes, though. We got pretty good signal here with Verizon.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely do utilize the cellular cameras. It's been a game changer, but it's also, I was just talking about making me anxious, and it does. But it's great, waking up in the morning. It's like Christmas every morning, checking out your trail camera pictures. And But I'd be lying if I said I don't utilize them. But I think you can overutilize them too. If you rely too much on those cameras, you're already a step behind. Yeah. I want to be a step in front.
That's a good point.
Yeah. And then you're talking about just the right time to strike. And if that, you're seeing your cell camera ding all the time, and you're like, you'd probably a little bit more prone to go force it. But that actually brings up a good point. Okay. So you're obviously working a full-time job, just like a lot of people do. You're looking at your phone, you're looking at an extended forecast. Like, what kinds of things do you look at to be like, oh man, I am hunting then?
Right. So the big thing, first of all, is wind, obviously, is I can tell you out of all the bucks I've ever shot, and I can think back to all of them, I have never shot a buck upwind of me, and I've never shot a buck downwind of me. I've shot all of my bucks at a crosswind. So what I'm talking about there is, you want your wind to be good for where you want the deer to come through. You want a crosswind. You want that wind hitting. Sorry, there, my phone buzzing. You want a crosswind where the wind is just hitting them in the side of the nose when they're walking through. So where I'm getting at is, they think they have the wind in their favor, but you're just on the other side of them, and you got it actually in your favor, barely, just right. Not, it's not blowing right to them, but it's going right on the side of them, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yep. No, that makes sense.
For an example, I have I'm just going to draw you a picture here, but imagine I have this big ridge, and this ridge is in this narrow pinch. And I'm specifically speaking of the buck I killed, Uno, on how I killed him. So we had a northwest wind switch to a southeast wind overnight. And I knew on this ridge, I needed to get as far on the north end of this ridge that I possibly could, because I knew he's going to come through there and he's going to hang it as tight as he possibly could to that north side. So everything inside of that pinch is blowing to him, hitting him right in the side of the nose. So he comes from the north. He comes from straight north on a southeast wind. And I'm just on the west side of him, and he comes right through the pinch, and I shoot him at 20 yards, and he's dead. So that's kind of what I'm talking about is you got to really pay attention to the wind, but also like we're talking about the cold fronts. I like to see a 10 to 15 degree temperature drop. And I really like to see when a wind switches from say you've had 5 or 8 days of a predominantly southerly wind and it switches to a northerly wind. Yep. I'm going to be in a stand.
Yep.
No matter, I don't care if it was, 5 degree temperature drop, I'm going to be in a stand because that wind switched from the predominant direction to a different direction.
And then you're targeting a crosswind when you sit after that wind switch.
Exactly. Yep. I don't hang any of my sets to where I'm hunting where the wind is absolutely perfect. I mean, sure, you're going to see a ton of deer. You're going to see small bucks. You're going to see, and you might get lucky, and you'll have your big buck come in and you're perfectly upwind of him. I'm not saying that don't happen, but predominantly when I think of all the bucks I've ever shot or my wife or anybody I've been with hunting, I've filmed a lot of people shoot other bucks too, is those deer are just barely off your wind. They're not straight downwind of you. They're not straight upwind of you. They got that crosswind. Your wind's going right on the side of them, but just right. Or another thing too is, you can get a little chancier on morning hunts when you got that pressure, huge pressure swing and your thermals are rising. You can pull off a lot there and on those early morning hunts. And I will do that sometimes as well too.
Right. With the ups and downs of you're in the hill country where, our local land is really flat. So we don't have that opportunity to take advantage of thermals as much as you guys.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting.
Yeah. Cause you guys, where you guys at? We're in
central Minnesota, north central Minnesota. So it's kind of on the edge where anything north of us is all woodland. And then as you go south, it gradually transitions into the egg country more. So we're kind of right in the transition of the woods to the egg.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know about you guys, but I like to try to stay away from bottoms a lot too.
Just because of the wind swirls?
Yes. I mean, the wind swirl is so bad in a bottom.
Yep.
I mean, you can have a perfect constant wind for 20 minutes and then here comes that buck and that wind just completely just whoop and it's game over.
Yep.
And another thing I didn't mention was I don't call a lot. I do not call a lot. I used to call all the time. And I personally think you do more harm than you do good. Just because if you look at it percentage-wise on what worked and what didn't, I think you'll see that more times than not, it doesn't work. And then you're just educating that deer. Mm-hmm. The element of surprise is always your number one best friend. And now the other big part of that though, too, is the demeanor of the deer. So paying attention, if you notice a buck that is the bully in your area and you can tell, he is just mean and he knows he's King Kong, that's a deer I would call too. But I've had multiple deer, Uno's one of them, that if you called to that deer, he's gone. Every single time, he's gone. Don't matter how, he did not like to fight. He didn't like confrontation. He didn't act like he was the King Kong, except maybe a couple occasions over 6 years. But for the most part, he was a non-aggressive buck. And knowing that is key. So the other thing I didn't mention too is I like to target specific bucks. That's my number one thing. I mean, I want this certain buck. I'm going to hunt him for just him. I'm not paying attention to all the bucks in general and everything else. I'm just hunting him. I absolutely love doing that. That's my favorite thing to do by far.
Which is obviously just an even greater level of difficulty, let alone self-filming and all that kind of stuff. Well, yeah, I mean, you guys definitely have the whitetail stuff pretty well dialed in, and you guys have a lot of super, super sweet content. So obviously the folks that follow Team Radical will be able to check that stuff out and get a lot of that content. But you kind of alluded to it earlier. Where is Team Radical going? What kinds of things can be expected? What growth is in your future, and what do you have in the pipeline?
Hey, sorry guys. I gotta take a quick hard stop here for me. I might be back here quick. I just got something that popped up. I got to run too quick. But if I don't talk to you, Kyle, thanks for jumping on, and I'll let you finish up with Mike. But it was good meeting you, and I look forward to watching more of you guys' content.
Hey, I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll try to get back.
Take care.
Yep.
Okay. Mike, can you repeat that again? I don't remember where we were at there.
Yeah, for sure. So basically, obviously, you guys are dialed in with the.
Where are we going? Yeah, going forward, the future. So one thing we've started is we actually have a Team Radical podcast. We haven't advertised it that much yet. But obviously, you can see I'm wearing the headset stuff and doing all that.
You guys are dialed in. Yeah, I've listened to a few episodes. It's good. Yeah,
right now we started a new thing where we're taking you through every single week of deer season.
Okay.
So every single week, we got 2 to 3 guys that have hunted over the past week, and we hop on for 15 minutes per guy and just talk about what's going on, what encounters they had, their success, their failure, what worked, what didn't. And that's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed that. Cool. And I think that's going to grow with time. We haven't really advertised it much.
Yep.
But we're just trying to I think we're only 14 episodes in, so we haven't done very many yet.
Yeah, but
I enjoy that.
Get that stuff out there
and learning with that. But the other, what's that?
No, I said, yeah. I mean, just get that stuff out there and be consistent. But I mean, that's good information. Not only that, it's no matter how much you hunt, no matter how much you feel like you've gotten certain things really understood and figured out, if you can't, swallow your pride, so to speak, and learn something from somebody, man, it's just going to be a detriment. Because if I've learned anything, I just surround myself with better, more knowledgeable people on any topic, and it seems to work out for the better. That whether it's elk hunting or deer hunting or just life or trying to grow a business, it's people that are more educated, a little bit better at things. Everyone's got a talent. So if you pick something up from one of your guys that's hunting and doing a certain thing in Kansas, like, well, hey, I'd be willing to try it. I'm going to check it out. And, it's just only going to grow you as a hunter and a person. So anyways.
Right. Swallow your ego. I mean,
exactly.
That's what it comes down to. And so many people don't do that. And I feel bad. I mean, everybody paints these pictures that it's all glamorous and pretty, that, you're going to go out there and get the job done, and nobody wants to admit their mistakes, and they're the macho hunter and everything.
Yep.
There's no room for that. I mean, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody learns from them. That's the beautiful thing, is learning from them.
Yep.
And someone told me, you can't learn a dang thing if your mouth is open. and that's true. That. I mean, true. I always have an open ear. I don't care how many deer I'll kill or not kill. I'm always listening. I'm always willing to try something new that I think might work, or, that's part of the fun too. I mean, learning from your mistakes, whether it's in hunting or life, I mean, that's how you grow.
Yep.
That's how you grow. And, going back to with Team Radical going forward, we're going to continue to pump out the content on YouTube, and we're on Amazon Prime, and, this phone keeps falling down on me. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I see you just fine.
And just growing on the social media platform though. And hopefully there's some new platforms that we're going to hop on as well in the near future. And, we just kind of like keep growing in that aspect. It's kind of growing on its own. I mean, we don't really pay to play really. It's pretty much all organic for the most part. And it's done really well because people are enjoying our content.
Yeah.
So that's wonderful. And hopefully that continues to grow like that. And we've had a lot of our partners we've been with for over 10 years. We don't like to switch partners that much, and we like to keep loyal partners, and we really enjoy that aspect of it too, which was a huge struggle in the beginning, as you can imagine. And that's usually what everybody has questions about, is how do you get someone to sponsor you, and blah, blah, blah. And it's hard. It's a long road, but if you don't give up, you'll make it happen. And the big thing too is don't sell yourself short. Your time is valuable. At least mine is.
Yep.
I know my time has a price tag on it for someone wants me to do something, and I'm not willing to sell myself short. And especially now that I have 2 little kiddos and, a full-time life outside of hunting, it's very important to me. Time is very important to me because you only have so much of it.
Yep. Oh, man, I couldn't agree more. Yeah. It's, my grandpa was, a bit of an entrepreneur. I want to say like 9th, 10th grade, didn't finish high school. But was a businessman and had multiple businesses. And he always would say, if you're good at something, don't do it for free. You're not that it's only about money, because it's not, but it's also about time. And yeah, I've got 2 kids. I've got 2 boys now. And, it's just your time that you want to spend with them and not miss things is incredible. You don't want to, part of you is like, oh, I have this undying passion, desire to go, but I also want to stay. And it's so like you pick and choose those battles. And when you have the opportunity to go, you make the most of it. But to your point, you've only got so much of it. And if you're going to grow a business, you have to be, man enough or woman enough to stand up for yourself and say, no, we have value here. We really do. And I think a lot of people see that, if it's, again, back to your authenticity, if it's authentic and it's real and it's got a niche and it's something that people see value in, they're very willing to, there's a price tag for it and they know that. So I'm glad you brought that up. That's certainly a great point because, you see more and more and more, it's always just a price tag and people are willing to go do it for free and do it for nothing. So,
yes. And it's been so oversaturated. I mean, the last 5 years alone has been insane. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, I'll get a 40% discount. They're going to be my title sponsor now. It's just like, are you kidding me? I mean, no, you pay to play, period.
Yep.
The same thing if, I'm going to go on a hunt somewhere. I'm not going to ask you for a deal or anything. If you want to give me one, fine, but I'm there. I'm there to pay to play. I get it.
Yeah.
That's your livelihood and everything else. I respect that. I'm not going to be that guy that tries to, do something out of someone or whatever. I get it. We all have lives and I wish the best for everyone, but man, just so many people selling themselves short is just crazy to me.
Yep. So, I mean, that kind of just what you just alluded to, I mean, that's certainly another aspect of Team Radical that is going to be growing more and hunting in the Western world. So maybe kind of talk about some, we'll definitely talk about your muley hunt with Bad River, but talk about some trips that you kind of have circled or some goals and some dream hunts.
Well, the big thing for me is I want, for the team, I want us to be able to go out west. I don't know where every year, something new, something different every single year. And we started doing this probably, I'm going to say 5 years ago. So not that long ago where, we've gotten to the point financially where we can afford to do this finally, which is amazing. So thankful, so blessed. But basically I want to be able to send guys out to different spots every single year to hunt. And whether it's for elk or mule deer or whatever, we definitely want to just try different places. And, I kind of told you already this, Mike, but basically I've kind of made myself the guinea pig, going on a lot of these hunts first and seeing which ones are good, which ones are not good, which ones I know that the guys can get good content out of, which ones I don't think the guys will. And, if I think they're great and it's a great opportunity, then we'll send guys out to that spot the following season. And so I've had some really good ones and I've had some really bad ones up to this point.
Yep.
And the other thing with me is I know people apply for points all over the country for different Western states, for different units and everything. And the thing with me is, we were just talking about time. You only have so much of it. And when it comes to those Western hunts, especially those more extreme ones, the older you get, the harder they're going to be. I mean, that's part of life.
Yep.
And some of those tags, you wait and you might not get drawn ever. New Mexico, it's all luck,
Right.
Or, it might be 15 years before you get tagged. We can't afford to wait that long. So I'm, trying to find landowner tags. I'm trying to find an over-the-counter tag, which I'm sure a lot of people are too. And sometimes you got to pay a little more to go on those, but it's worth it to me because it's not like I plan on going to that specific spot every single year. I'll send a different guy if they want to go or whatever, but basically just trying to see as much and hunt as much as I possibly can all across the country and even out of the country. And then eventually, we're going to have a group of guys going to different locations every year and creating new content in the Western scene. And we really, like I said, we've done really well with that so far. And yeah, the South Dakota trip this year was definitely one that will be very much so highlighted for our guys in the future. I mean, that was a fantastic trip, even though I sucked kind of.
Well, yeah, we talked about it earlier, but ultimately you made a great shot and you killed that deer. It was a giant buck, beautiful mule deer. But there's realities. There's, no matter what it is, we can all make excuses about things, but with bow hunting equipment, it's got to be a good shot, or else those deer or elk or whatever, they can get away from you, and that stuff happens. It's all part of bow hunting, and it's an unfortunate reality because we've all been there and we've all felt the pain that it feels like to make a bad shot. That was Bad River Bucks and Birds out in South Dakota with Brett Weibel. You guys bombed out there. You hunted for a few days. I mean, why don't you just give us a rundown of the hunt in general, the day-to-day, what they were like?
Yeah. So first of all, there's not a lot to see from first look when you're out there. You don't think there is, at least, because it's all wide open, flat, bunch of sorghum fields and sunflower fields and not a lot of row crop. There was some, but what I found out right away out there is there's a ton of canyons, and that you can't really see them until you get up on them. And then inside of these canyons, there's trees and lush green and shrubs and everything. And that's where you're going to find your deer for the most part. Yep. And so that was really cool seeing that. And, from the outside, you can't really see that because, like I said, everything looks flat from where you're at, but you get up on there, it's super cool. And yeah, the lodge itself at Bad River was first class. I mean, they had every type of accommodation you can imagine. They had a fantastic room that, shower everything every night. They had, every single night they had supper, which was unbelievable. I mean, they cook a gourmet, just incredible first class supper every night. And then every morning you get a breakfast sandwich, whether it's, I don't even know, an egg sausage McMuffin, whatever, homemade.
Yep.
And then you pack a lunch, a cold sandwich and some chips and everything, and your drinks for the day. And then you do a lot of driving. You do a lot of driving around, doing a lot of glassing, getting out, and walk a few hundred yards, get on a high point, and start glassing, and really trying to find those deer. And then when you do find a deer, you got to find, is it the right one that you want to go after and chase? Mm-hmm. And for me specifically, I was hunting more so for a mule deer, I guess, than I was whitetail. And Kyle was really tailoring, our guide was Kyle, and he was kind of tailoring to where we went based on that. And I just want to say first off too, that Kyle was a fantastic guy in general and a fantastic guide. I mean, the guy had eyes like I've never seen. It's totally different for us, from Midwest here in Central Illinois, where you're lucky if you can see a few hundred yards in a field or whatever. Out there, you're looking 2 to 3 miles out.
Yep.
And you're just looking for a speck, just something that looks different. He could find it every time, just like that, super fast.
Get so used to seeing it and looking for it,
Yeah. And
it's crazy.
It's incredible how well they blend in too. And another crazy thing is I've never seen before how much whitetails, I've never seen whitetails and mule deer intertwined so much together as what I did out there.
Yep.
There'd be a group of 2 or 3 whitetail bucks and, 4 or 5 mule deer bucks right behind them. It's like, holy cow, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And that was really cool. And I can't get over the amount of game in general that's out there. We're talking sharp-tailed grouse. You got prairie chickens. You've got pheasant. You've got quail. They had doves that looked like it was Argentina out there. You had mule deer. You had whitetails. I mean, they just had all
Coyotes.
kinds of everything. Antelope.
Yep.
Antelope, coyotes. And Brad even said some of the places they've got elk. So, I mean, just a huge variety of animals out there, which was super cool to see. And prairie dogs. Prairie dogs were everywhere too. Yeah, everywhere. But so our day to day, like I said, we start at before daybreak. We hop in the truck and drive to our first spot. We set up shop and start glassing as the sun broke, and it was on day one. So day one, we were driving around, and Kyle just locks up the brakes in the truck on a gravel road and said, "I've been waiting 5 years for a deer to bed there, and finally there's bucks laying there." And me and Jake Vansel, who went with us and was filming the whole thing, me and him were like, "What are you talking about? We couldn't see nothing." And inside of this little canyon was a little strip of green grass that was about knee high. And sure enough, there was 2 bucks laying there. And the bigger one, we couldn't tell yet, actually had his head laying completely down. He was asleep, had his head laying on his side. And we got up there and glassed to make sure it was the foreshore buck we wanted to chase, and it was. So we made a real long loop to get on the backside of him, coming around him, come down that same draw. And long story short, we belly crawled for probably 200 to 300 yards. And I finally got within what I thought was within range of him, because I could see the smaller buck and I had a range on him, but I could not see the bigger one. I couldn't see any tines, no nothing. And we waited there for probably only 20 minutes, and bigger one finally stood up, but I could only see maybe 3-4 inches of his tines at first. I'm like, I don't know what to do here. I mean, I'm within 35 yards of this deer, and I just couldn't see it. So I didn't know if he was half stood up or what it was. And he finally starts walking out. And as he's walking out, I can't see his vitals or nothing. He's starting to go away. So I come to full draw and stand up and start walking to my left to see him, what I think would be able to see him better. And Jake starts moving with me. And finally I grunt to get him to stop, and I could see his vitals. And I shot and missed. And I looked down, I had my dial turned on the 60 instead of 50. So instead of shooting at him for 35 yards, my pin setup actually shot at him like he was 45 yards.
Yep.
I shot right over his back.
Oh.
Didn't spook him too bad, and he ran off. And we ended up running back to the truck, or got back to the truck. We drove quite a ways, and we found him back about a half mile away from there. And he bedded back down. And so we made another game plan, ran into there, and made a huge loop to come around. I don't know how far we had to walk. It was quite a ways. And we finally get in a position where we think when he stands up, he's going to come right past us, because there's this trail that comes out of this canyon, and it comes right past us at about 25 yards. And we're hiding behind this real nice big bush. And sure enough, 2 does get up, and they come right past us at 25 yards. I'm like, man, these bucks do this. He's so dead. And of course, the bucks stand up and they go the opposite way, go up and over the ridge.
Naturally,
so we run all the way around again and start just creeping over these little canyons, because inside of these canyons are other canyons. I mean, they just keep splitting off everywhere, just canyon after canyon. And so we just keep peeking over the edge. And finally, we peeked over this one, and Kyle goes, "He's right here." And we're like, "Oh, crap." And what's crazy is when you look on top of these canyons, you think you can see down to the bottom, but it's actually not. It's almost like the hill starts at a gradual slope, and then towards the bottom, it just really drops off steep. So I walk up there to Kyle, and I can't even see the deer at all. And finally, I get up there a little further, and I guess they're called yucca plants. Yeah, they're big old yucca plants. And we were behind one yucca, and I needed to get to the next one. And I belly crawled up there, got to it, and finally I saw his tine. And then the deer started angling up towards us and walking kind of quartering to. And he was at 36 yards at that point, or 38 yards. And everything was good on my end, dial, everything. and I sat up on my knees to get a range of him. So I knew the range, and came to full draw. Well, actually, the deer is walking up, and as he's walking up, he's coming more and more exposed. So I knew this deer was going to see us. I mean, we're in the wide open. There's nothing to hide behind other than this little bitty yucca plant, and there's 3 of us. So as he's coming up, he stops and he sees us. He turns and looking right at us. And in one swift motion, I just pulled straight back, with the bow facing him, just pulled straight back and prayed that he wouldn't bust. And I got settled in, and as I got settled in to get ready and I pulled the trigger, I knew it hit him, didn't know where, and then he took off running. I could see the arrow. It was a terrible shot. It was way high, no man land, to the point of where I can't believe it didn't find him. And he ran off, and I just thought to myself, what happened there? I had no idea what happened. I felt great. I was steady. Everything was perfect. We went back and watched the video. And as I was pulling the trigger, that mule deer was taking a step forward. Basically, this mule deer was ready to bounce whenever I was letting that arrow go.
Sure.
He knew we were there. He saw us, so he was getting ready to spook
yep.
and get out of dodge. And as I pulled that trigger, he took a step forward, and I mean, just dropped. He dropped 1.5 feet, probably. I mean, before the arrow got to him. Crazy.
Yeah,
I mean, unreal.
So
I never
crazy.
seen one jump a string as bad as what he did. And I was aiming even low.
I mean, yeah, and at 35 yards, like that's just, it's insane.
35 yards.
The senses that these
shooting
animals have.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm shooting 70 pounds, 300 feet per second.
Right.
That arrow's moving.
Right.
And yeah, he jumped the string that bad, hit him high, couldn't find him. We walked quite a ways looking, hopefully. We knew it wasn't going to be a non-fatal hit. No doubt is a non-fatal shot. So we were hoping he would lay down again, though, and we'd find him back and get a shot. And we had a lot of property there to work with. So we did a lot of walking around, trying to find him, using the Onyx maps, with waypoints where we last saw him and everything else. And we ended up walking close to 4 miles between that day and the day after, grid searching everything we possibly could on that piece of property to try to find him, to get another shot. And we never could find him. And we even came back the following day to look for him again, and he was not there once again. So we did our due diligence and trying to find him back, get a shot. And yeah, I mean, I was sick to my stomach, upset. But Brett said, it's time you go get on another one. And then it was, and every property that we were hunting at that point was further away from the lodge. So it would have been, 20-minute drive, 30-minute drive from the lodge. And then on the last day, we decided we were going to hunt closer to the lodge, on the backside of the lodge. So we drove on the backside of the lodge, and Brett had some standing beans out there, which couldn't have been 8 inches tall. I mean, they had a massive drought out there in South Dakota this year.
Terrible.
Horrible drought.
Yep.
Yes, horrible drought. And we're sitting there glassing right before daylight, and we see a ton of whitetails and 2 whitetail bucks that are for sure shooters that I'm going to shoot. And we decided we need to get further down the road and come in on this backside, basically on the side of them, and try to get in close to see where they're going to bed and get a shot at them. And so we hop in the truck, we start driving down the road. And, well, those whitetails just busted. I mean, they're 500, 800 yards. I mean, long ways away. But they're just so much more skittish than what the mule deer are out there.
Yep.
And so they just bust out of town, start running. So we're driving down the road thinking, we need to get in front of them and see where they're going to go. And as we're doing that, Kyle just locks our brake, goes, oh, look right here. And there's 4 or 5 mule deer bucks standing there. And 2 of them are ones that I would shoot. I was like, oh man, they're right there. So Kyle basically said, well, I don't know if this is going to work, but we can try it. We can try a Brett plan here, a crazy idea. But he's like, basically, you guys get out of the truck, use the truck as cover to hop out of the truck, grab the bow out of the back, get down in the ditch on the opposite side of the road of the deer, get down in the ditch, and let him drive past us, go down the road a ways, and hopefully take the mule deer's attention off of us and go back towards that truck. So then hopefully we can slip across that road, because there is absolutely no cover in between us and the mule deer except for this road. And it's just the rise of the road that is all we have for cover, unless we can get down in that other ditch on the opposite side. So we got to cross this road that's up high. So, I mean, as soon as we stay on the road, you know, you're sticking out like an absolute sore thumb.
Yep.
So I creep up there, and I mean, I got my binos literally laying on the edge of the gravel of the road, just barely where they can't see my head or nothing. And I'm watching their racks. All I can see is their racks. I got maybe 10 blades of grass that I'm trying to look through and keep enough cover between us and them. And at this point, they're probably 200 yards away from us. And the deer watched Kyle drive off. However, he wasn't far enough back to where they were still broadside to us. So if we got on that road, they'd see us. So Kyle took the next road and went to the east, to where it was more behind the deer, to where it would take off, hopefully, their attention off of our direction in general. And it worked. And as soon as those deer whipped their head and was looking that way, I hollered at Jake and just said, "Get across this road now." And we jumped up, started running across the road, and one of the small bucks whipped his head around and was looking right at us. Thought, oh, it's over. But we got down in the ditch, and that little buck just turned his head back around and started looking back towards that truck again. I was like, holy cow, we might pull this off. Well, now we had to crawl through this duckweed, and then we had to crawl through a fence to be legal. We got to get across. We got to get across that ditch. We got to get through that fence and up to that field edge to be legal to shoot this deer. Either one of these two bucks. And we slipped up there. I got through the fence, and then Jake tried getting through the fence, and he got caught on his pants. So we had to take his pants off the barbed wire. And anyways, we get up to the field edge, and I'm laying completely on my back, literally on my back, just barely glassing, sitting up just a little bit. Cause I mean, this grass is maybe 8 inches tall total, maybe. And these deer are in the soybeans, and they're wanting to cross this road. So we knew they're going to come our direction, but we didn't know if they're going to be within range. And as I'm laying there, I keep trying to get a range on these deer, and I cannot get a range on them, And before long, that first buck, which was a wider buck, got to the edge of the fence, and I couldn't get a range on him. And he jumped, and the second one was coming. I'm like, I've got to get a range on him. And finally got a range, and he's walking through the beans. So I come to full draw, basically laying on my side, come to full draw and sit up, and the deer's broadside and stops on his own. I shoot. I felt great. Thought it was everything looked great. And as soon as it hit him, I'm like, man, I didn't get any penetration. And that deer just bounds and jumps the fence, goes across the road, jumps the other fence. And we can see the arrow on the video and in person just hanging out significantly. I mean, where there looks like maybe 2 inches of the arrows in him is what it looked like. But then the deer starts staggering a little bit. I'm like, man, he might go down right there. Long story short, he goes off across the ridge. We go back and watch the video. Again, this deer jumps the string massively. And the arrow actually hit right on top of the shoulder bone. And when that deer, that arrow actually went all the way in. And as soon as he took that very first step, he pushed that arrow back out.
Whoa.
I mean, really? Almost the whole thing. So that told me right there that was bad news, because it's basically on top of the shoulder is what it seemed like, and his shoulder blade is what actually popped the arrow back out. So we watched that footage and everything and went back to camp and gave him some time. Kyle could see a little bit further than we could, so he kind of marked it, and we gave him 3 hours, and we went back that afternoon, and we went up to this canyon, started glassing, looking, saw some small bucks. Long story short, we went to the very furthest away canyon. We're like, you watch, he's going to be at that very furthest one away, bedded down. And we get up there, and we finally get up to that last canyon, and we don't see nothing in it. It's just a real little one. It's maybe 30 feet deep and probably 400 or 500 yards long. That dumps into the main canyon, though. of the whole big canyon. And we get up there and we're kind of talking and we don't see nothing. And we said, well, let's go to the big canyon. We turn right to go to the big canyon. And as we turn right, Kyle just stops us and goes, you know what? He goes, I want to look down this little canyon a little bit further, real quick, right where we were just at. I just want to peek over the edge real quick. And sure enough, he does that. And I mean, his whole body just dropped. He goes, he's right here. So me and Jake get up there. Long story short, he was right there laying in a bunch of nothing. I mean, just one little patch of grass in this wide open little canyon. And sure enough, he was there. And all I could see was his head, his rack and his head. And I was watching his demeanor. He was painting real hard. Mm-hmm. And Jake was right over my shoulder. And all of a sudden, I felt the wind hit my back, what little wind we did. I'm like, uh-oh, it's going to go right down that canyon. And sure enough, I could tell by the demeanor of the deer that he got a lick of our wind.
Yep.
So at that point, I lock on the thumb release. I'm like, he's going to stand up any second now. And sure enough, he turned his rack a little more and he stood up. And I came to full draw as soon as he was standing. Before he can get his head turned all the way around, I had done shot him. He's 20 yards. And absolutely center punched him, ran up 75 yards and fell over dead. Now, at that point, I thought it was a nice buck for sure, but I had no idea how truly big he was until we got up to him. And we were all dumbfounded by how big that deer was compared to what we thought it was.
That was
It was a big deer.
Yeah, that was a beautiful, beautiful muley.
It was just full velvet too. My first one in full velvet.
That's so awesome. So awesome. And he had a little bit of everything, and super, super heavy. But he also decided to die right in an epic spot for great pictures.
Yeah.
Right on top of a ridge.
He fell dead on a pond dam. Yeah, literally right on the pond dam, which worked out great too. That, we could drive a side-by-side out there and pick him up and not have to drag him or quarter him up and take him out. I don't even know. We were 2 miles in on that piece. So that worked out fantastic. Yeah. And yeah, I felt really relieved, went through a lot of highs and lows on that trip. And it wasn't because of them. It's all me. The place itself was first class, top notch. And I love too that Brett doesn't take an overabundance of hunters. He is all about quality whitetails, quality mule deer, letting them age, same thing I do here in Illinois, let them reach their fullest potential. And just truly grateful for you for, finding me that place to go. And for him, just having the first class operation there. And our guide, Kyle, everything about it was fantastic.
Yep.
Can't brag them up enough.
Yeah, they're a solid operation. Great people at the end of the day. Nothing's guaranteed in hunting, and as you found out, there's certainly some great deer. There's some highs and lows that can happen still, and just because it's a guided hunt doesn't mean anything, and there's certainly nothing guaranteed. And at the end of the day, karma comes to good people that just keep trying and keep at it, and you got another chance, and you made the most of it. So that's super cool.
And that's exactly it, is just not giving up. I really wanted to, trust me, after that first ordeal.
Yep.
And
been there, unfortunately.
I just thought, it's horrible. I'm like, you got to get your head out of your butt. You tried everything you could. Now you got to go for round two. And, I'm thankful Brett was, allowing us to do that too, because some places you stick one, you're done. And, I asked him that, and, he's like, that deer is going to live. We knew that. It was a non-fatal hit on that first mule deer. And, we did our due diligence for 2.5 days trying to find him.
Yep.
Over miles. So, and he wasn't there. Just wasn't. He was gone. So
sure.
Moved on to another piece, and just really thankful.
Yep. Well, that's cool. That's probably, anyways, I'm super happy for you. I'm glad that it all worked out in the end. And, at the end of the day, you learned a little bit about some Western hunting, and you killed a great deer. And, at the end of the day too, you have a story to tell, you have a story to show, and an authentic piece that Team Radical has forever.
Yeah. And you guys can watch that episode too. It's on our
Yeah. So
YouTube
as we're kind
channel
of
now.
wrapping up
So,
here, I mean, I think that's a great way to wrap up. But yeah, I definitely want to, how can people? What are the social channels? Where can we find you? Where can we follow along?
Yeah, so you can find us on YouTube. Just type in Team Radical. You'll find our videos.
Mm-hmm.
And you can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram. Those are our primary social media outlets that we use the most. Also, if you guys enjoy watching your videos on Amazon Prime, you can find us on there too. We usually update every season about once or twice a year on Amazon. So,
that's awesome.
But if you want more of the live action, I would definitely recommend find us on Facebook and find us on YouTube. So,
killer. Well, that's awesome. And I'm looking forward to hearing the weekly updates on the podcast with different guys and what you guys are finding in the whitetail woods. Because that rut's coming very quick.
Yeah. Yep. And typically every Friday morning, we have a new podcast throughout deer season.
Awesome.
That's kind of what we're shooting for. I mean, it might vary a day or two, but typically every Friday morning, we'll have a new podcast for everyone to listen to on how the previous week has been going throughout our deer season.
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely, do our best to help plug that, and probably end up putting the YouTube link for the hunt for the story you told us in the show notes. So, Kyle,
sure.
Seriously,
and
man,
I'd like to say too, thanks, Mike. I'm very thankful for meeting you and ABO. I kind of told everybody about kind of our goal going forward is finding these places to hunt and everything. And it's great to have someone like you who has done a lot of that legwork already and is putting us in contact with, these great people such as this South Dakota trip. So huge thank you to you.
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, good people know good people. And, I just, from the get-go with getting to chat with you and getting to know you, it's just an authentic feel. And I'm looking forward to the partnership going forward between Team Radical and ABO, and certainly not nothing but the beginning here. So I really appreciate your time as always, and good luck with hunting coming up here. And I can't wait to keep following along. So hug your wife and kids, and have a wonderful rest of the week.
All right.
All right, buddy.
The same, Mike.
Take care, man. Appreciate it.
Yep, you too.
Bye.